Good Woche, everybody. Back to our shiur, Motzei Shabbos 2. Perek Ablezel Milah Maseches Shabbos Daf Kuf Lamed Gimel Amud Beis. We're learning the halachos of Bris Milah on Shabbos, and yeah, and by the way, as well as Hilchos Milah in general from the Gemara. Kuf Lamed Gimel Amud Beis. Let's go. Leilu Nishmas, my father Menachem Ben Akiva, and we are excited to be on Torah anytime. In a YouTube channel, the Ilun Ishmas Mefadam Menachem Ben Akiva. Tonabonon. Mehal Ketin Samila. The Gemara now is saying, the Brisa is saying that, as we said before, some pieces of skin are me'akev. Tzitzin and me'akev means that if you did not completely cut away those pieces that cover most of the corona, even if they're small pieces, but they cover the majority, so then if they're not off, it's me'akev. In other words, you just can't go on, and the baby is considered an orel if those pieces that cover the majority, if they are not off, then the baby that's not called that he was circumcised. If he did not cut those pieces, we didn't cut them off, then there is an onush kores. The question is, mani, who? Who is the one who's chayav kores? Who are you talking about? Father, baby, Shabbos, weekday? What kind of chorus are we talking about, and who's involved in that chorus? Amav Kana, Uman. What does that mean? Uman is the mohel. Uman means the professional, the mohel. If the mohel cut off but did not finish cutting, and this is taking place on Shabbos, so if on Shabbos he did the cutting but did not complete it, came out what? What came out? That really there was cutting, which is an Chilul Shabbos, Isur Shabbos, without performing the mitzvah completely, only doing half the mitzvah. That's why it's Chayav Koros, because of Chilul Shabbos, because he broke Shabbos without really being Mekayim, the mitzvah of Milah. However, the Gemara is not happy with that. Maskif Rav Pope. Rav Pope is now attacking Rav Kane. Rav Pope is attacking Uman. Are you really sure that the one chapping chorus over here is Uman? Leimalahu, the Uman can tell the other people, the parents, whoever, Ano avdi palga the mitzvah. I did half the mitzvah. Atun avdi to palga the mitzvah. You guys, you people should do the other half. Let me explain. If the person created half the mitzvah, but it's still time, there's time for the mitzvah to be finished by other people. It can happen sometimes. One guy does half, the other one, the other half. What happens then? You can't say that the first guy is Michal Shabbos for nothing. He's Michal Shabbos, he's not Michal Shabbos. He broke Shabbos to get you halfway. If he's getting halfway there, still, he's getting you somewhere, and the rest can be done later. Give you an example. Let's say a person, lo leinu, is in a situation of pikuach nefesh, right? And somebody takes you in an ambulance halfway to hospital. And from some reason, halfway through, his ambulance has to stop, and he relays him to another ambulance. Would they say that the first guy broke Shabbos? Mapitom, no way. He got you halfway to hospital, the other, and then the doctor does what he does, and the nurse does what she does, right? Yeah. In other words, that's the way it goes. Who says you have to complete the Milah and only then the justifies the Chilul Shabbos? No, he did what he could, and the rest can be done later. Elam of Puppet. Because of that, no, I compared it to Choylav. The mice over here is a baby, there's Milah. He did half a Milah, the other half can be done by other people. You can't say that the first guy broke Shabbos for nothing. It's not nothing. He got you 50% there, 80% there. Elamar Pope. But therefore says La Pope a different shot. Godol. What does it mean, Godol? This has nothing to do with Shabbos, but rather we're talking about Milah in general. A weekday Milah, we're talking about a Godol, a grown man, any person above Bar Mitzvah age. If you don't have your Milah and you know it, and you deliberately don't take care of your Bris Milah, you get chorus after your death, Chlila. So now, what does it mean, chorus over here? Very simple. If that guy had bris milah, but there were no tzitzin, the tzitzin and me'akvin were not removed, the milah was not complete. And we said before, if you don't have the milah complete with tzitzin and me'akvin, you consider it as an orel. then the gadol gets chorus, because at the end of the day, when it comes to bris milah, 90% is like 0%. Maskif lo Ravashi. Ravashi is now attacking Rav Papa. If so, Godol, Bediksiv Bey. What's the Chiddush? Of course you're right. It's just too simplistic for the Brisa to tell me that. Godol, it's written Behedya, written clearly, explicitly. The Oral Zocher Shaloim gets chorus. It says an Oral Zocher who doesn't have the Bris Milah done to him, that Oral Zocher, what does he have? He has Bris Milah. Yeah? The Oral Zocher has chorus. Right? Yeah, that's it. So why do you need the Brisa to tell me that? Obviously, it gets chorus if he doesn't have full Milah. Ela Maravashi, back to square one, but in an improved way. Elam Ravashi, an improved teretz. Lo'ilam Uman. Really, we're talking about a mohel on Shabbos. And the mohel did not complete his job, and he chaps chorus. How would that be? Ukigoin, the also ben Moshes the Shabbos. The Milah started Shabbos late afternoon, says the Rambam, very late Shabbos afternoon, bordering on Shkia, ben Moshes, yeah? Or bordering on Shkia, but soon it's going to be Motzei Shabbos, or bordering on Seis, Ben Hashmoshes, bordering on whichever time is Motzei Shabbos. V'amulei loy maspakta. They tell him, listen, if you start the Milah now, we're basically, half a minute before Motzei Shabbos, you're not going to make it. People around tell the mohel, don't do it. Meaning, why shouldn't you do it? If you start Milah right before Motzei Shabbos, and you're not going to be able, even potentially, to finish the Milah, then knowingly you're making a petza, a wound which is usher, knowing that the job will not be finished on Shabbos, and nobody else can finish it on Shabbos. It's as if you're driving the guy who just got a heart attack into nowhere. You're driving him the car knowing you'll be stuck in the way to Hadassah and Karm Hospital and nobody will be there. So you stam drove. You're taking him on a joyride. Yeah? In other words, you did halfway without it being able to be finished. Right? Now they told him, hey, you're not going to make it. V'omar lehu, and he told them, Maspekina, no. Smoch al smoch, as we say in Hebrew. No, I'll make it on time. Mr. Moel is a little bit, overconfident. And he says, the Rambam says, I'm a Zois, I know what I'm doing. I can do the complete Milah in 10 seconds, the whole thing, boom, boom, boom. The Ovad v'lo istapak. Surprisingly, he did it and he did not manage to do it on time. What comes out? He started on Shabbos without being able to finish, and he was warned about it. The ishtakach de chabura the Ovad came out. He created the wound on Shabbos with no justification because it cannot even be able to be finished on Shabbos. So such a milah you shouldn't even start.
What's with kavana?
What?
It's not like he said I'm going to make a malacha with kavana. It was a mistake.
Wait a minute. The onush kores. Wait. Let me explain, and then I'll hear a question. Why is this guy getting chorus? It's really machloikes between what the Gemara says and what seems to be in the Rambam. The Rambam can't argue with the Gemara, but there are two explanations here to the Gemara. Shot number one, you should have known better. Although he's not trying to break Shabbos, that's true. He's a nice Yerushalayim person, but the fact he's overconfident, he was told by other people around him that he won't make it, and he decided yes to do it, right? Does make him a tzaddik. You agree to that, right? Although he's no kavanah to complete Mezid, according to what seems to be in the Gemara, is an onush chorus. The Rambam says he's not onush chorus. The Rambam says something very interesting. Because he was warned, and he decided to do otherwise, he's chayv chatos. Interesting, which means to say it's a complete Mezid is not. He really thought he would be able to do it, right? To say it's an onus or completely innocent cutesy, you can't say that either. He should have listened to others. So the Rambam says, what's between Mezid and onus? Shoygeg. So because it's shoygeg, he was warned he'll bring chatas. Usually chatas has nothing to do with warning. Here the warning leads him into chatas. Very, very interesting Rambam. Okay? It's the middle of the road thing. Moitzitzin.
Yeah. I'm not too much about these stuff, please.
What?
I'm not too much about these type of things.
Yeah, unfortunately, people tell you mohel. Sometimes when you hear from people who rely on me, then you know not to rely on them. Yeah. everything will be on time, everything will be good. Yeah, that's sometimes overconfidence is not good. Amar Pope.
Some it goes both ways. No.
Amar Pope. Says Rav who said in the Mishnah, one of the things you're allowed to do on Shabbos and therefore should be able to do on Shabbos to in a bris milah is moitzitzin, to suck in the blood, and obviously then the mohel spits it. Yeah, and the metzitza basically makes sure that the blood circulation continues the right way. Amar Pope, hi umna de lo maitz, sakonahu v'avrinan lein. An uman that doesn't suck out the blood is a sakona for the baby. It's danger for the baby. V'avrinan lein. We fire him. Yeah, we don't employ him anymore. Maybe unless he promises to do metzitza. But if that uman for whichever reason doesn't do metzitza, you fire. Yeah, we disregard, discard this kind of mohel. Fragt the Gemara, pshita, of course. Obviously, it's very important and mandatory to do metzitza. Medika mechalel l'shabsa sakonu. If the Mishnah says you mechalel Shabbos for it, then obviously it's sakona. Sakona means it's necessary. Obviously, you only do it on Shabbos because otherwise the baby's in danger. So obviously, a moil that does not comply with these rules is endangering the babies. So what's the chiddush? Just put two and two together. See the Mishnah, and I don't need the Rav Papa Kivyochel to tell me that. Answers the Gemara, no. Rav Papa did have to say it. Why? Ma detema haida mifkad pokid. One would have said like this. You know why metzitza is allowed on Shabbos? Not necessarily because you're allowed to break Shabbos for it, but because maybe it's not Chilul Shabbos. Havamina was that maybe dam is mifkad pokid, meaning maybe the blood once the Milah is out. I mean the orla, maybe the blood that's there is already kilu stored somewhere in the veins or whatever that is. It's considered as if it's like milk in a bottle. It's like mufkad. It's stored somewhere. All you have to do is get it out. Yeah, which means it's not a sakona. No, excuse me, means it's not Chilul Shabbos. Chilul Shabbos means when you really disconnect it from its original source. Here, maybe not disconnecting it. It's already there. Like when you suck, let's say, chocolate drink from the bag, yeah? You're not disconnecting it from any source. It's not. You move it around. And that's not called dash. It's not a problem on Shabbos. Maybe that's why it's allowed, but it's not sakona either. It's allowed because it's not sakona. Kamash Malan, no, Chiburi Michbar. Kamash Malan of Papa is telling us no, the blood is really connected, whatever that means, blood connected, the blood is still not circulating properly. The blood is somewhere that you have to get it out from the source into the outside. The Dumidis Pelonis V'Komun. That's why Metzitza is mentioned together with the bandage and the cumin, which is like an antiseptic. If you don't bandage the baby properly and you don't put the antiseptic, the refuah things to keep the hygiene, it's a sakono. This too, the metzitza is mandatory, not because it's okay, it's not Chilul Shabbos, who cares if you do it? No, it's a real Chilul Shabbos, otherwise you're allowed to do it because otherwise it's a sakon if you don't do it. That's what mentioned with this pelonis and common. Just like you have to keep the hygiene, you have to bandage it, you have to put, antibiotics of those days. Otherwise it's dangerous. Yeah, it's exposed to infections. In other words, it's a sakona. And the Chazal knew about infections apparently. So to metzitza is mandatory and important, and it would otherwise be Chilul Shabbos, and yet it's allowed because it's a sakona. V'nois in the is pelonis. V'nois in the is pelonis. Omar Abaye. Yeah. Amroli aim. Yeah. What is this pelonis? We said is pelonis is basically bandage that contains all kinds of medications to deal with the wound of the baby, to heal the wound or to keep the wound clean. Amroli aim. Abai mentions many times in the Gemara. Abai mentions his aim. Who's his aim? Not his mother, because Abai was an orphan from both parents in a young age. And the aim was like his nanny. The aim was the woman who raised him, and she taught him a lot of wisdom, a lot of life wisdom about everyday life. Isplanisa the kulon kevi. The isplanisa, the medication that's good for all types of sores, all types of wounds, all type of wounds. You know what's the best refuah for that? Shav minoi tarba, 7 portions, 7 serving portions of chelav, yeah, v'chad akira, and 1 portion of wax. That's the best medication. It's a lot of fat, animal fat and wax. That's good for the wound. Rove Omar, Kira v'kar barishina. Rove says the best is Kira. Kira meaning the wax, and kar barishina is white sap. It's a kind of sap from the trees that's white. Those Rove b'mechoizo. One time Rava gave this medical advice in public. He spoke in Mechuza, in the city of the rich, fancy people, where he was a Rosh Yeshiva also, Dayan. So Rava was a Godel of Mechuza, and he lectured, Kivyochel gave the shiur to the people, and he told them about that medication. You know what the response was? One family didn't like his medical advice. Who? The children of the doctor. Kar'inu b'nei Manyumi Asya lemanayu. The children of Manyumi, the Asya, what's Asya? The doctor. The children of Dr. Manyumi tore their manai, they tore the clothes. They tore Kriya. Why? Because they said, Oi, up until now, that was our medical secret. People would pay us money, so we heal them. Now it's exposed. Now everybody knows it. It's like medicine online, right? You go online, you see all the doctors don't like it. Yeah, you see all kinds of medical advice. Yeah, so the doctors feel, where are we going to make our money from? Omar lehu, so Rav said, don't worry. He consoled them and he said, don't worry. Shav kilechu chada. One medication I still left you as a secret. I mean, eventually it was exposed, but one thing I did leave you and nobody knows except for you and I. Domo Shmuel. This is a tradition I have from Shmuel, which was knowingly also doctor from the previous generation. Omer Shmuel from 2 generations ago says Shmuel, Hai man de mashi ape, whoever washes his face, veloy nagiv tuva, and he does not wipe, doesn't dry his face properly, naktu alechas panisa, is going to have all kinds of cracked skin. Right? What happens when you wet your skin and then the wind comes or the air, right? Gets dry. Happens a lot to hands, right? In the winter, many of us have this issue. You have to put cream, right? So if you don't dry your face properly, then it's going to get all cracked up. Maita kante. What's the solution for that? Lim shituva b'maya desilka. You should wash it well with water of spinach. Take spinach water and wash well the sore face, chalila, if it happens, and that's going to help you. And that was the medical secret which only Shmuel told Rove and the Manyumi people, but don't say this to anybody else. So Dr. Manyumi and his children don't lose their parnasa.
It says beets here, not spinach. I don't know if it's
I know. There's a lot of machlokesim.
Manure was a tunnel.
Trodin, one thing at a time. Thank you for your questions. Let's Trodin, it says beets, right?
Yeah.
I know. Silka's beets, but Trodin are tered is spinach, and it's not so simple means beets. I always hear both opinions.
Okay.
So it's either beets or spinach or both. Try it at home. Yeah. Manyumi is not mentioned as an Amoraim. It says Bnei Manyumi. Maybe it was a regular Yid. He was a doctor. Maybe it was Choshuv. I think it was an Avid called Manyumi also. Anyway, Lo Shochet Me'erev Shabbos. What did we see in the Mishnah? If you did not grind the cumin, let's say, whatever you need to grind in order to heal the baby, and you did not do it on time from before Shabbos, you're allowed to do it on Shabbos, but it's preferable if you chew it, right? Because even though the baby is chol shesh b'sakono, even in chol shesh b'sakono, if it's not like an immediate need, yeah, you're supposed to do things b'shinui, right? But if you can't do it with your teeth for whichever reason, you can't chew it, then you grind it. L'mais sakono. Now let's compare Shabbos to Yom Tov. We all know that. What's the rule? Yeah, Mishnah in Megillah Daf Zayin Amud Beis and also in Beitza Lamed Vav Amud Beis. What does it say in those Mishnayos? Ein ben Yom Tov l'Shabbos elo eichel nefesh bilvad. Right? The only two differences, or the only one difference really, between Shabbos and Yom Tov is eichel nefesh. Oichel nefesh is allowed to be done in Yom Tov, but not in Shabbos. What's oichel nefesh? Melachos that are necessary for food preparation, or other basic needs like washing, things like that, are mutter to be done in Shabbos, such as cooking, yeah, or lisha, kneading, baking, shechting. These are mutter and Yom Tov. Now, Tanobono. Dvarim she'en oisin Milah b'Shabbos, oisin la b'Yom Tov. All types of things that you're not allowed to do to Milah on Shabbos, you're allowed to do on Yom Tov. What do you mean all types of things? Really only two things. Says the Shulchan Aruch, only two things you are allowed to do on Yom Tov for Milah, which you're not allowed to do on Shabbos. What are they? A, shoichik and lakamun. You're allowed to do actually the chatchila, grind the cumin. You don't even have to try and chew it with your mouth. You're allowed to do the shchika, yeah, to grind the cumin and make the powder for the baby, for the wound. You're allowed to do that on Yom Tov. No problem with chatchila. V'torifin lo yain v'shemen. The other thing, if you remember, we said in the Mishnah that normally back then they would put on the wound, they would trickle down on the wound a mixture of a mixture of wine and oil. Now, in the Mishnah, we said, if you remember, on Shabbos, you're not allowed to whisk it. Whisking is also the Rabbanon. You're allowed to put them separately, put the wine separately and the oil separately. Mashenkin and Yom Tov, you're allowed to whisk them together and then put it on the baby. Okay, why is it? Why is it so really that those things are the things you're allowed to do in Yom Tov? Think about it. These two things of grinding cumin and mixing the drinks are oichel nefesh. That's what they're allowed to in Yom Tov anyways, right? In other words, here you're not going to eat it, you're going to put it on the baby's bris milah. Well, the Lamaisa, since it's anyhow allowed for oichel nefesh, clearly so, it's mutter for the baby. On Shabbos, you're not allowed to do it otherwise. To do shinu, ta. On Yom Tov, I'm allowed to do it for my meal, so kol sheker, I'm allowed to do it for the baby. Okay? Amar Abai Rav Yosef. That leads to another question. Amar Abai Rav Yosef. Abai is asking his Rebbe Rav Yosef. Maishna kamun b'Yom Tov dechazi lekdeira. What's the difference between cumin on Yom Tov? You're allowed to grind it, no hard feelings. Grind it lechatchila lekdeira. By the way, just to stress the point, cumin or other condiments when they're freshly ground, it's much better, right? Better taste. You're allowed to do it for the pot. It's okay for Eichel Nefesh. Yain v'shemen chazin ami b'Shabbos l'choyle. Wait a second. Let's move now from Yom Tov to Shabbos, right? You're telling me that if there's another need, right, on Yom Tov for food, mainly we extrapolate it and we say it's okay for the baby. If so, let's move to Shabbos now and ask from Shabbos to Shabbos. Wine and oil, you're telling me, don't whisk it on Shabbos. Don't mix it together. You can't whisk them together like this. Rather, put each one separately. Wait a second. On Shabbos, even choyle she'ein boy sakono, yeah, you're allowed to mix wine and oil together for choyle she'ein boy sakono. So if so, why won't you be able to do it for the baby too? Just like Yom Tov, if you're allowed for X, you're allowed to Y, so too over here. If I'm allowed to do it for Choyle Shen B'Sakona, let's do it for the baby, the Tanya. Now we're going to prove the point that the mixture is allowed for a Choyle. Let's see. It says in the Braisa, Ein toil fin yain v'shemen l'choyle b'Shabbos. One is not allowed to, as opposed to what we just said. Tanakama of the Braisa, this Braisa is in the Tosefta, by the way. You're not allowed to whisk together wine and oil for a sick person on Shabbos, even Chol Shen B'Sakon, it's an Isod Rabbanon. Isod Rabbanon, you can't do for a Choyle, only through a Goy. Yeah? Amar B'Shimon Lozo, Mishum Rabbi Meir. No. After Finyan V'Shemen. Not true. Says Rabbi Shimon Lozo, I know that Rabbi Meir is real. Rabbi Meir said, you are allowed to whisk together Yain and V'Shemen for a regular Choyle. Now, what's the story that follows that machlokes? Amar Rabbi Shimon Lozo. Pam achas chash Rabbi Meir b'Meirov. One time Rabbi Meir felt ill, he had a stomach ache, yeah, he had some stomach issue. We wanted to mix wine and oil for him because it's healthy for the stomach ache. He did not allow us to do that. We told him, your own opinion will be cancelled, will be annulled in your own life. You are the one who did allow it, right? The Nekama says it's also, you say it's mutter. Why don't you live by your own kula? Ma'aserav, show everybody what the truth is. You hold of what you're saying. You practice what you preach. Omar lanu. However, Meir's response was, "Afal pi she'ani omer kach," even though I say this way, v'chaverei omrim kach, and my friends say, sorry for the break. Yeah. Okay. Baruch Hashem. So, Baruch Hashem. Yeah. Omar lanu. Afal pi she'ani omer kach, v'chaverei omrim kach. I say one way, and my friends argue and say otherwise. I never felt it's right. Lo milani libi. My heart did not let me. I didn't feel it's morally right. La'avol, to break to go against what my friend said. In other words, yeah, they say otherwise, and I say what I say. I don't go against the majority when it comes to halacha l'maisa. Now, conclusion of the story is very interesting. Who knew the what?
It's not ethical.
Yeah, right. It's not ethical, not works ethics. Zog the Gemara is a comment about this incident. Who knew the machmir nafshi? He really was machmir on himself. Aval kula al mashari. What did Rabbi Meir say? He didn't say I don't hold by what I said. He says I myself feel I have to comply with what I said. Mashma Rabbi Meir for other people he does allow it. Yeah. Now Rabbi Meir is Stam Mishnah. So Stam Mishnah Rabbi Meir means halacha is Rabbi Meir. If so, let's summarize the question. Rabbi Meir should be the opinion that we should follow Stam Mishnah, and therefore what? Rabbi Meir is saying, I do allow other people to do what? To mix wine and oil for any choila. If so, why shouldn't you do it for the baby too? And says the Gemara, it's not the same. Why? There's a difference between the yain v'shemen of a regular choila and yain v'shemen of the post Milah baby. Hasam lo ba'ilika. Over there, we don't require the lika. We don't require to mix them together. In a regular choila, the only thing you're allowed to do is just place wine separately, oil separately, or you can even mix them, but without whisking them. You understand? In other words, you can mix them, but not whisking, not like really mix them very, very strongly, like your milkshake, like your cappuccino. No. You're supposed to just mix them pour them together. That is not a real problem. It's only a problem of refuah. You're allowed to do refuah, right? He's the one who's lying in bed. He's in pain. Oh, here with the baby, it's worse. Here with the baby, you're supposed, in order, the way that same medication works for a baby's wound, you need strong mixing. And therefore, you don't do that on Yom Tov, but rather you put each one separately. Why? And then oil. Why do you have to go to that extreme? Let's summarize. There are three ways of doing it, right? Up until now, we think that for the baby, what do? You put the oil separately, goodbye, then the wine separately, no mixture whatsoever. That's one way. The other extreme is whisking them together. And that's a big problem, right? You're not supposed to do that. But there's a middle way of mixing without whisking, just mixing them putting them together without thing. Why don't you do that? You don't like whisking so much because that looks like you're about to cook it. Why don't you just mix them together? You're allowed to mix drinks on Shabbos, cocktail on Shabbos. Why shouldn't you do it without whisking? Says the Gemara, yes, you can. Very good. When we said to put them separately, you were wrong. We did not mean to say put the oil, goodbye, and then the wine, goodbye. No. Bifne atzmoi meant when we put them to the cup, put the wine, put the oil, don't mix, let them mix kind of naturally. That's allowed on Shabbos. You're allowed to make the cocktail on Shabbos in a kiddush to do that, and then pour it on the baby. And that's absolutely fine. And enochanami, if it's okay for a chola, definitely it's okay for a baby after bris, which is the chola shesh b'sakono. Tono bonon. Now that we spoke about Yom Tov, Yom Tov came into the sugya through the backyard, right? Because we spoke about baby Milah on Yom Tov. Now we're going to talk about other halachos related to Yom Tov. Tono abonon. So let's just summarize. What about boirer on Yom Tov? Boirer on Yom Tov, you should know, is allowed as long as you don't use a kli, you don't do it professionally, but you are allowed to take. If you don't do it in a professional way, in a way that's a tircha, But if let's say you start mix it to the bad out of the good, yeah, you have a salad, you want to take the bad out of the good. To the best of my knowledge, it's okay. However, if you want to use a kli, you want to use a proper misanenes, you want to use a sieve, then it's a problem in Yom Tov. And it's a shaila if it's an isel dorais or derabonon, if you do it in a professional way. Stamaz, you should know the machloikas, the Mishnah Berurah brings down all the malachas from Ktsira, from the first malachas of Ktsira all the way to Lish, all the malachas that the Ritva says are done in the field. Harvesting and all those, yeah? Threshing, boirer, it's in the field. Those are not allowed to be done in Yom Tov, either doraisa or derabonon, machloikas. From Lisha, kneading and baking, that's okay. Derabonon. What does it mean? Let's say one prepares chardal. You want to prepare your own fresh mustard and Yom Tov. Now, chardal, they come in small seeds. And those seeds have like bran. They have part that stays in the mesanenes. You want to sieve to sift the chardal little grains in a sieve, or you call it sifter, right, in American English. And now those subin, the bran, which is the relative, you soon understand what I mean. Psoiles, the refuse stays on top, and the good part of the chardal goes into the bowl. We're going to mix it and make it and create and you make the mustard spread. So you're not allowed to be mesanenes the chardal b'mesanenes shaloi. Why? Because it looks as if you're boirer. What do you mean? It looks like you're boirer, yeah, as we're going to see later. Because although the parts on top are also edible, the unwanted stuff is also edible. So it's like oichel mitoch oichel. It's not oichel mitoch psoiles. But lemaise, because you use a professional tool, it looks as if you are boirer, as if you're selecting. So you're not allowed to do the chardal on Yom Tov even, although it's oichel nefesh. Maybe there's a way to do it, but done in a professional misanenes is not allowed. To do it in a more, in a less professional kli is allowed, says the in halacha, but in such a professional kli, special mustard misanenes, that's not allowed. The en mamaskin also begacheles. Very interesting. A way to sweeten the chardal once it's in the bowl, they would make it sweeter by extinguishing a gacheles inside. They would take a coal into the chardal, and some of the heat of the gacheles, maybe the wood, we're going to see whether it's wood, gives it nice flavor. Yeah, then maybe the burnt wood, burnt oak, or burnt wood, gives it a good gishmak smell or gishmak taste. That you're not allowed to do. You can't do kibui. You have to extinguish it, put out the gacheles, the coal inside the chardal. That would be the nice way to do it. That's not allowed to be done in Yom Tov because kibui is possibly allowed in Yom Tov, but this you could have done yesterday. You're only allowed to do things in Yom Tov you couldn't have done before. That gacheles business could have been and should have been done yesterday, so don't do it now. All Abai Rav Yosef. Abai is asking Rav Yosef, same people as in the previous sugya. Abai and Rav Yosef. Ma'ishna mehodit nan. What's the difference between this and another Mishnah we're going to see later on? It says later in the Mishnah, it says in the Mishnah, if you have egg, and you want to take the egg, which we all know has the yolk, and it has the yellow part, and you want the yolk to go down through the sieve into the chardal to give it good color. Yeah, that's allowed. You're allowed to do that, even though you're using mesanenes shel chardal, right? You're using mesanenes shel chardal. Why is that? That's okay. And the chardal itself is not okay. What's the difference? Why am I allowed to have the egg, yes, being sifted through, and that's okay, through mesanenes shel chardal, while chardal itself, I'm not allowed. What's the difference? Omerle, he says, lo mechzike boirer, ochro mechzike boirer. Over there, it doesn't look like boirer, and here, it does look like boirer. Says Rashi, over there, kulo yoytze derech mesanenes, ven nishtar shem psoiles. Over there, everything goes through the mesanenes, and no psolis is left behind. What do you mean no psolis is left behind? Over there, of course, something is left behind. Otherwise, why are you sifting it? Elamai, the white stuff, that's left behind, you're going to use it right away. The yellow stuff is for the color of the chardal. And by the way, one pshat is that it's okay to do it because it gets absorbed straight into the chardal, and it's only color; it's nothing real. That's why it's okay. The part on top, you're going to eat right away. You're going to use it as well. Mashenkin here, yeah. Mashenkin here with the psoilus, you're not going to use the bran on top. What Toysa said was you could use it and it's potential oichel, but you probably won't. Therefore, that is relatively psoilus. Mashenkin by the egg, you were going to use both. I'm separating good from good. The yellow I'm putting straight in the chardal, and the white one I'm using straight away. So they're both ochel ochel. That's why it's okay. Then we're masking also begachenes. Let's read the other part of the Mishnah. You're not allowed to sweeten the chardal by extinguishing the coal inside. Another brisa says that it is okay. You're allowed to put and extinguish the gacheles, the coal inside. It's not difficult. Kan begacheles shel mateches. Oh, let me explain something very important about malacha of kibui. What's kibui? Kibui means we extinguish something. Extinguishing, yeah, let's say there's fire that extinguish. In theory, nothing stays behind. Yeah, like from a torch, something like that, some electric thing, whatever. Nothing's left behind. It's not kibui. Meaning, gecheles shel eitz leaves behind a real kibui. There was fire, there was a coal, out. Then you have a burnt wood, which is also usable sometimes, right? It's usable to be a coal for your next barbecue. So gecheles shel eitz is not allowed because you created a real gecheles, as opposed to gecheles shel mateches, which is allowed. What's gecheles shel mateches? A gecheles of what? Of metal. Metal that's very, very hot. It's red hot. When you create the mateches, it's red hot. You possibly, according to some Rishonim, you're over in mavir. But when you let it cool down, or you put it in water, let's say, and you really cool it down, not creating a new gecheles. It's the same metal, just cold, right? The heat is over, the redness is over. You didn't create anything, right? It's the same. Let's say you had an iron pole, an iron stick, yeah. Now that stick made out of iron, what's with it? It was red hot. Water, kibun. It's the same metal. Now this is also midirabonon, but because it's Yom Tov for Ochel Nefesh, they don't forbid it. They don't forbid it. Don't forbid it. Why? It's only also midirabonon to put ad gechel shel mateches because it's not real kibui. Nothing real was created, and therefore midirabonon they allow it for Yom Tov. Because of Ochel Nefesh of Yom Tov, it's allowed midirabonon. Let's get to the two dots. It's really not hard. Let's just get somewhere today. You're so concerned about what? About extinguishing on Yom Tov. What about when you make your barbecue on Yom Tov? That's allowed. You're allowed to do sliya, to barbecue bisra, meat, on the gumri, on the coals, on Yom Tov, even though at some point you're mechaber, right? Yeah, it's gonna, let's say you take the wrong turn, yeah? Sometimes you take a big feet, right? That happens in barbecue. Big piece of schnitzel, boom, on the gecholim, right? They go out, right? How come that's okay all of a sudden? Why that's allowed? Why is it allowed? As I told you before, the tzli, to have fresh barbecue, is much, 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 much tastier than barbecue from yesterday. And the rule is, since the kibbutz is anyhow derabonon, right? And therefore, or even the oraisa, by the way, if it's a real need of Yom Tov, even the oraisa, such as grinding, the Gemara says in Beitza, anything that wouldn't be as fresh and as gishmak, if you do it yesterday, and you have to do it today to have real nice fresh taste, whether it's grinding or kibui, yeah, that you do today. Yesterday's barbecue from the fridge, Therefore, you're allowed to do the barbecue today because that's real fresh and nice. And so too, but the mashenk and chardal, you could have done it yesterday. Yeah, don't do the kibui of the eights because to make the chardal yesterday and today is not such a big difference. You could have done it yesterday, do it yesterday. Are you allowed to make cheese on Yom Tov? Oster can't make cheese on Yom Tov. What's the difference between this and lisha? Right? Gvina is boine. You can't do gvina on Shabbos because you're adding and assembling all the pieces together of the cheese. Yeah. So lisha is allowed in Yom Tov when you also mix things together. Why is gvina not allowed to be made on Yom Tov? No, over there, fresh bread is fresh bread. You do the lisha today. Gvina, it's nicer to have the gvina that is fresher. It says no, that's not true. They say that gvina basyoima, that fresh cheese is better. Why are you telling me that by cheese it's not allowed because I should have done the cheese yesterday and all the bread today? Not true. They say that gvina basyoima or me'alia, fresh cheese is better. It says no, you misunderstood them. The nardoi hachi kamri da feel gvina basyoima me'alia. Old cheese is good. Yellow cheese, it's old. The older the better. Even fresh cheese is also good, but the cheese from yesterday is even better. So even if you're a very fine schmecker, gourmet kind of French chef, it's still better to do the cheese yesterday. So I'm mechalel Yom Tov today. Shenken with the bread, fresh bread is clearly better today. But I have to do the baking and the kneading and baking today because that's much fresher. We don't expect you to only do it yesterday. Shkoyach givalik to that's in Kuf Lam Dal Domud Aleph shiur tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem, and hopefully the rest of the week.
In the
What?
shul.
Yes, tomorrow it's in the shul. Hope we get over the noise. A great week for everybody, and Mazel Tov to all the
Every
hostages
day,
that are free.
Wednesday also?